Earlier on, we talked about selections. We talked about creating selections based on shape or even based on color, but we want to get a little bit more advanced now. And I want to start us off with a command inside Photoshop called color range. And he's very similar to the magic wand tool. If you remember the magic wand, he created selections based on color. The color range is very similar to the magic wand tool, but I kind of think of him as the magic wand tool on steroids. So if you're taking notes here, he's going to make selections based on color, but he's going to select adjacent and non-adjacent colors as well. So let's go and check this guy out. I'm going to go and double click on my gray Photoshop background, and inside our work files folder, go ahead and look for a file called trucks.psd. Pop this guy open. What we have here is obviously a photograph of 3 toy trucks. Now the example that I want to give is, what if we wanted to select one of these trucks while leaving the other 2 trucks isolated or unaffected? Maybe we want to change the color of the truck, or maybe we want to apply some kind of special effect. Who the heck knows, right? Maybe we want to even pull them off the background. Give me a second here. I'm just going to set my screen up. I'm just going to tap the F key once to go into full screen mode, and I'll just zoom in here a little bit. There we go. Let's say, for instance, I want to select the yellow truck in the middle. So first of all, I'm going to go and activate the color range command. He's found underneath the select menu. So head up to select, and then there you'll find color range about halfway down. And this is the color range dialog box, the color range command. So there's a few things going on inside this dialog box. We have select and then sampled colors, or we could specify specific colors that we want to go after. Maybe it's skin tones inside a photograph. We have this fuzziness slider and then sort of this seemingly useless black rectangle at the bottom. Now this black rectangle here indicates what we have selected inside our image. Let's get started with this guy, and I'll show you how all this is going to play out. So, as I say, it's this guy in the center that I want to go after. Notice when I bring my cursor over top of my image, he changes to an eyedropper. And what I'm going to do is just single click somewhere on this image. And you'll see inside this black rectangle, we get a bit of an update. So some of the rectangle is black, some of the rectangle is white. Now, how this works, and this is sort of going to be the theme for this entire chapter, is white reveals, black conceals. In other words, all of the areas inside this preview thumbnail that are black are not selected. Areas that are white are selected. Okay, so again, I could click around here to try and select some different colors, things like this, and you'll see this thumbnail update, right? Or perhaps I move on to the blue truck. I want to try and select some areas on that guy, and again, you'll see this thumbnail updating. Let me show you a couple of things here. First of all, when I single click on my truck here, some of the truck gets selected. I can see there inside the preview thumbnail, but not all of the truck. Well, I want to try and get all of the truck, or as much of the truck as I can, right? So we know this from our previous lessons on working with selections. We know that Shift adds to a selection, and either Alt or Option subtracts from a selection. So what I could do here is I could hold down Shift, and I could continue clicking on my yellow truck to add in other areas of that truck, something like this, right? And again, the goal is to select as much of the truck as possible while leaving the other 2 trucks unaffected. You'll notice I got a little piece of the yellow on the door of the red truck. That's going to be pretty tough to subtract out. But now I'm holding down Alt or Option, and I'm going to try and subtract that area out, but now I'm subtracting from my yellow truck. So this is actually a pretty tough selection. But in any regard, that's kind of the basics there. Let me show you a couple of other things that we can do here. You'll notice we have this Selection Preview drop-down menu. So what I can do, this little thumbnail preview is kind of tough to work with. So what I could do is I could switch out, instead of none, I could go grayscale, and that gives me that same thumbnail preview inside the image window. And I can go, oh, okay, now I can see exactly what areas of my image are not selected and which areas are selected, something like this. And the goal, again, is to get the entire truck filled with white. So I could go grayscale, I could go black matte, something like that. So in other words, again, any areas that are filled with black are not selected, right? Or I could go white matte, something like this, right? There we go. Or, of course, we could go quick mask. Now, quick mask is something I want to show you in the next exercise, one of my favorite ways for creating selections inside Photoshop. So this is sort of foreshadowing on things to come here. The other thing that I want to show you, I'm going to go all the way back to grayscale because that gives us a better preview than what we see inside the dialog box. The other thing I want to show you is this fuzziness slider here. We haven't talked about this guy yet. What this guy is, well, first of all, you'll recall with the Magic Wand tool, we had a tolerance setting. Well, the fuzziness slider is very similar to the tolerance setting. So in other words, I've clicked on yellows. If I crank the fuzziness up to the right, that means my selection is going to be broader. I'm going to be selecting more and more colors. In technical terms or in textbook terms, what this guy does is he sets the luminance value. So in other words, if I have a very low luminance value, then I'm going to be creating a very tight selection based on the pixels that I've selected. Let me show you a quick example here. I'm going to use the blue truck here. I'm going to hold down Alt or Option, and I'm going to reset my color range. So starting all over again. And I'm just going to single click on the hood of the blue truck. My fuzziness or my luminance level is set at 49. That means 49 color levels or luminance levels higher and lower than the color that I clicked on are going to be selected. So that's the technical explanation. The sort of the everyday explanation is he makes the selection bigger or smaller, or he selects more blues or fewer blues. Okay, that's how that works. So again, the idea here is to come in and make the best selection that I can, perhaps not something like this. There we go, somewhere in there. And again, it does take a little bit of time to get the best selection, a perfect selection. But as you can see, it is tough. Some photos are easier to work with than others. When I think I have a half-decent selection here, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. I'm taken back into regular old Photoshop, and you'll see the marching ants for the selection that you and I have created inside the color range.